usually during promotions, to do a couple things. State of the jungle, yes, but before we get to that, just to sort of reiterate some of the lessons or some of the protocols that are going on in the jungle gym. All right? We are not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. Let me repeat that. We are not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. Does everyone understand that? Now, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the martial art in which I hold the highest rank. But it's not the only martial art I've taken. It's certainly not the only martial art that we teach. Does everyone understand that? Right? So, it's very important you guys understand that the ranks that we hold in this school are for this school. When you want to go do a gi division in a tournament, your jiu-jitsu rank is going to be important. When you want to go do a judo tournament, your judo rank is important. But when you're here, the only thing that's important is the rank that you hold in my preparation of you as a martial artist and a warrior. Everyone got that?
Yes, coach.
All right. So, all the guys like online asking me, you know, what's the green bar about? You know, how come you're wearing a green bar? You know, what's my answer to them? None of your goddamn business. Don't worry about it. Right? So it's important that you guys understand that yes, we do indirectly belong to a much larger community of jiu-jitsu guys. We also belong to a much larger community of judo guys, of wrestlers, of MMA fighters. All right? Now, I will say when it comes to the pajama party, you know, my guys don't win every tournament. I don't prepare them to specialize in gi tournaments. So the guys that do really, really well are going to do really, really well. But last time I checked, when it comes to the cage, we handle our business. And if you guys have showed up on one of the MMA cards where our guys have been fighting, whether it's amateur or pro, you see there's a difference in where we are preparation-wise and where a lot of the other schools are. Right? While they're trying to fight to be a part of the larger jiu-jitsu community, we're just doing what we do. All right? I'm much more worried about what happens on the street corner than what happens in the finals at an IB, A, B, C, D, E, F, G tournament. Right? All right, that being said, we have a bunch of senior ranks we're handing out today. Now, some of you that are going to get senior ranks, I'm going to break my own rule, and some of you may not be ICC certified. I think you actually, the guys that want to get ranks too are, but just in case you're not, that's something that we'll address on the side. So just in case there's any discrepancy there, there's that. That being said, now, everybody's seen my persona, right, my identity on Facebook, take an aggressive turn last month or two, right? By design. You know, all the guys that work at the school will tell you that I told them that I was doing this. This was all part of a plan. But for the most part, what I'm trying to do is make everybody uncomfortable. In a good way. Right? The phrase that I use is pressure to power. Now, what does that mean? When it comes to how I think a student should be developed, cultivated, grown, forged in martial arts, early on, pressure is what is going to prepare you for what's ahead. A good friend of mine, one of my Sayakali instructors, Guro, Harley, Elmore, he's down in Texas. He told me this incredible story that he said a friend of his that does another art, I think ninjutsu, told him. Awesome story though, and it sort of fits exactly with what I want to articulate with the development of a student in the jungle gym. When you're forging a sword, right, you can go look this up. When you're forging a sword, you start with a piece of metal. Right? You start with a piece of metal. Just like when you want to become a martial artist, you want to become a warrior, you step into a jungle gym for the first day, you are that piece of metal. The first process that piece of metal needs to go through is heat and pressure. Heat and pressure. Now, what happens to the metal when you get that heat and pressure is impurities, right, sulfur and other things, they rise out of the metal and they're able to be sort of siphoned off. So through that heat and pressure in the beginning, every student that comes in here is going to face, and you guys all know, and I say this every single promotion because it's important to acknowledge it. You know people that joined when you joined that are no longer here. Right? Sometimes it's a valid reason. You know? I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't know if they died. Couldn't match any other reason. But for the most part, what you'll see a lot of times, and this happens at every rank level, right? White, blue, purple, brown, and black belt. The pressure becomes too much. The standards becomes too much. The expectations become too much. When that happens, everybody's sort of given a fork in the road. They either stay or they go. If they stay, the forging continues. So after the impurities are out of the metal, now it starts getting hammered. Right? So instead of that constant heat and pressure, it now becomes short bursts of power and heat and pressure. Once we start getting the shape of the sword, then we start going to other tools. Once we get the shape of the sword, now becomes a polishing. Now becomes a cooling, a lower heat with a cooling. But that original heat and those original hammers aren't needed anymore. So in those beginning stages of being a student in the jungle gym, you guys are going to face a lot of pressure. You guys are going to face, I mean, we just had a group of guys from a friend of mine's school come in and spar, and it was a great sparring session this morning. You know, we did well, they did well, the intensity was high. And one of the things, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine, I was telling him, you know, because I'm making fun of the guys, I'm busting everyone's chops, you know, I'm not letting people get water. And, you know, I told him the only reason I do this is to create pressure, to try and elicit some sort of emotional response. And I'm proud to say, it's hard for me to get one out of my guys anymore. It just rolls off and they keep doing what they're doing. Right? But it was good to see, having somebody who wasn't sort of brought up necessarily in this philosophy, how they went with it. You know, and the guys from the other school, they wavered here and there, but at the end, when we sat down and we sort of debriefed the whole training session, they got it, they understood it. So pressure has nothing to do with insulting you. It has nothing to do with not having any respect for you, for criticizing your potential. It has nothing to do with that. It's making you uncomfortable and seeing how I can get you to be emotional where emotion is not going to work. For those of you that are getting these senior ranks, you know, we're giving out a bunch of senior ranks today. For those of you to get, you guys survived that. Right? Give me a second. A little test. Now, Joe March, who does not know who Joe March is? What school do you think he's from? I just wanted him to see that. Joe March is actually a jungle gym black belt, right? Joe March and I. Go ahead. You gotta show up. Joe March and I were white belts together, right? And we started with the whole crew. When I went and started the jungle gym, Joe March was there training day in and day out. If you had to put a number on the amount of people, and he's been training as long as I have, the amount of people who are no longer training that trained with us, what would you guess the number is? I would guess probably 10,000. About 10,000 people that have started since the time we started, that are still training today. We've been training, what, 14 years? 13, 14 years? Right? So I've been training a little longer. 14, you're at 13 thing. But I would guess about 10,000 people. Which means It's not for everybody. Why do you think about it? It's not for everybody. You know, sometimes, you know, you got to tell somebody when they're breaking down and they're trying to quit, you know, and you've tried every sort of empowerment tool that you have at your disposal to empower them, and they still want to walk out the door. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, you know what? It's not for you. It's not for you. This, it's not for you. So every day when you guys come in here and train, you have to ask yourself, when you're feeling frustrated, when you're feeling like you want to quit, when you're sucking your teeth at somebody, right? Somebody tweaked your elbow, and you thought for some reason he really wanted to injure you, you know, and you're all pissed off. Ask yourself, you know, am I being emotional right now? And the bigger question is this for me? Because sometimes it's not. I know people who are better gi competitors than I am. I know people that are better no-gi competitors than I am, better MMA fighters than I am. You know, I might even know a couple of people that are better instructors than I am. But one of the things that I take total sort of confidence in is knowing that this is for me. And no matter how much pressure I get, I'm always going to stay and show up the next day. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was asking me, he's a black belt, very successful MMA fighter, he's been on TV and stuff, and he's been on some MMA shows. And he asked me, you know, how do you find the motivation to keep doing everything at the level you're doing? And I'm congruent and consistent with my philosophies. I told him, you know, pressure. You got to create pressure. Yeah, but you know, I'm at the school, I got all these things that I have to do, and I said, this is what you do. It goes for anything, by the way, that's why I'm telling you. You make a bullet point list of everything that needs to be done. Right? Rent needs to get paid. You know, payroll if you have employees. The light bill, the cable bill, right? Just make a list of everything that needs to be done. You know, cleaning, you know, marketing, you know, whatever the case is. And when you have that list complete, you pick those things that you will enjoy doing and be passionate about. Everything else you tell somebody else to do. That's my secret. Right? I think we can look at me and tell I don't teach 10 classes a day, right? I don't know. I take those things I'm passionate about and I do them, and here's the catch. I do them at a level of pressure that nobody else could stand unless they were passionate about it too. How you burn out, how you quit, is when you take something that you are not passionate about and you allow pressure to come by way of that. I hate my job. Quit. No, but well, then shut up. It's that simple. Complaining doesn't help anybody. And just because you may even get assistance from complaining doesn't mean that that's helping you. Right? I like using the analogy of a kid, right? I keep making babies with my wife. When they get to the point where they get ready to walk, how many times do you let a baby fall before you grab him and go, you know what, he's just not going to be a walker. It's not for him. Right? So it's funny when we set standards, right? When we set standards, how we have this sort of tunnel vision and everything becomes matter of fact and black and white and there's no other alternative. Well, I would say in that instance, as a parent, you are passionate about your child walking. So there is no level of pressure that's going to make you quit. Does that make sense? So, whether it's being a jiu-jitsu student, being an MMA fighter, I've had people cry in MMA classes before. You know, I've had, I don't want to say his name, he doesn't train here anymore, but the kid that we had from 204th Street that was teaching the kids class for a while, he couldn't take it. One day in class he just started crying. And I said, what are you doing? You know, it's like that scene out of that movie with Tom Hanks. Like, there's no crying in baseball. I'm looking at him. I'm like, you're supposed to be a fighter. What are you doing? You can't cry. And I just, what's wrong? I just walked out. Walked right out of the school, out of the door. Right? No shoes on, shorts, gloves, out, went home. Now I said he doesn't train here anymore because this was not for him. Right? So this school is always going to pressure you. If you want to be here and you do not want to get pressured, you are going to have an issue. And I'm going to try my damnedest, personally and through the systems of the school, to make sure that issue happens as soon as possible. Because if this school is not for you, I don't want anybody wasting time on you. But if this is for you, not only are you going to go through the heat, you're going to go through the hammering, you're going to go through the shaping, but eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to be polished. You don't need to hit a polished sword with a hammer anymore. Now you sharpen it. Right? Thank you for listening, guys.